Hi, I'm Gemma, and this is a chat with Gemma. So, a while ago, I did quite a few loneliness videos, and I'm sort of doing one now, I suppose. When I was in my 20s, I used to live in a flat, and sometimes after leaving the family home, where I'd often go to visit, where there were kids running everywhere and lots of noise, and it was very busy. Off I'd go home out into the dark and into the car, and I would drive the 25 minutes back to my flat. And I'd go into the flat and it'd be all dark, and I'd turn on the lights, and there was nobody there, of course, and it was very empty. And, invariably there'd be a huntsman spider on the wall that I'd have to kill. Why did God make spiders and snakes and scorpions and lions and tigers? Anyway, I don't know why. So, yeah, sometimes when I was driving home, I'd kind of have this really sinking feeling like, oh, I've got to be by myself. And I'd go in and I'd kind of have this really, spooky feeling. It was a really spooky feeling. And sometimes I'd even feel kind of like, what if there was a ghost? I'm here by myself. And I'd look behind all the doors and make sure there weren't any bad people, things like that. So it's very, very spooky, not a pleasant feeling. And quite often I was happy enough, and I'd be reading a book or watching TV, things like that, making a meal, eating, and so on. I wouldn't be thinking about such things. And then just sometimes it would just dawn on me that I was by myself, and I'd feel really spooky. And I suppose I kind of kept this to myself because that's what we do. And, we don't like to admit to sort of weaknesses, do we? Yet all human beings are full to the eye teeth of weaknesses. But I did mention it to a co-worker one time, and she said, oh yeah, I feel that way too. I think I'm not sure whether she was sharing or she was by herself as well, but she would have, say, a dinner with her family on the Sunday night and then drive back to the flat, and it was a bit lonely and things. And so lots and lots of people go through this. And I was watching I don't know, was it like a long interview or sort of a documentary / interview of David Beckham. And he was living in Real Madrid at the time when he was playing for them. And I'm not sure if his wife had come yet. I think his wife was still back in Britain, and his kids that he had at that time. So he would, I don't know, maybe he was going back to Britain to see his family, and then he'd get on an aeroplane and go back to Spain. And he'd be on the aeroplane and he'd think, oh, I've got to go back to, this foreign country, be away from my country and my family, and be on my own and play for this team that was, I suppose, I don't know why he was playing for them, just to make money. I suppose he was coming to the end of his career. And so he said it was a really hard thing to do, and a really unpleasant feeling. And I thought, wow, there you are, a successful, rich person, and he's going through these sorts of feelings. And I always thought that if you were rich and successful, you just threw money at things and you didn't go through any of these problems. I'd probably just pay somebody to be my companion. Anyway, so I think it's really great the way that celebrities are very open about things these days. I think sometimes perhaps they're too open for their own good, but I think it's good for other people. So he was pretty brave in talking about this, because he was a soccer player, and the other soccer players going to go, you miss your mummy, do you? Make fun of him. And all of that sort of thing. So I think that when people like that talk, and he obviously he's a guy who's very sure of himself, so he used to wear ladies' dresses, caftans and gowns and stuff at one stage. So he's very sure of his manlyhood and all of that. So I think it's really great when people like that talk about their, if I can call them weaknesses, or their soft points, and it means that other ordinary people can then think, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one going through this. And when I talked to my friend, I thought, oh, she knows what I'm talking about. And then you feel like, oh, you can talk about it. And of course, when we talk about something, it does make it feel better, doesn't it? And if somebody else can identify with you, it really does lift that burden off you a little bit. So if you're having feelings like that, you're living on your own, particularly if you're young, don't be afraid to talk about any kinds of unpleasant or negative feelings that you might be having, because other people absolutely do understand this and possibly have the same thing themselves. So the sorts of things I do now, and I don't, I think as you get older, a lot of things just kind of wear off. And I suppose you've gotten so used to it over so many years too. And if I feel feelings like that coming up, I kind of try to quickly dispel them. And also, I'm not coming home from a big loud house full of kids now. Everybody in my family is now ranging in age from 50 to 67. So that doesn't happen anymore. But I do like to, as I think I've talked about in my other videos, I do like to listen to a YouTube video, say while I'm playing mahjong or solitaire. I find that very addictive and very relaxing. And man, the time goes late for going to bed. You might be into crafts, and I enjoy that too. I enjoy doing all kinds of crafts, making my own jewellery, trying out different methods. I do art and I use different mediums, and I'm a bit ADD, I think, so I like to go from thing to thing. You might be a person who's good at carpentry, or a lot of fellas like to put together those kit things, like one of my brothers anyway, still likes to make those warplanes and paint them the right colours and all of that, and look up the history books and all of that sort of thing. And there are all sorts of kits now. You don't have to make planes or ships. You can make, I don't know, clocks and different things, all sorts of things. If you go to some of the game shops and the craft shops, they have a lot of those sorts of things. And you might like large, challenging jigsaw puzzles. You can buy puzzle books. Some of them are a bit too easy, some of them are a bit too hard. I find the in-between one's much better for me, because I do like a challenge, otherwise it's not interesting enough. But I can't bother really nutting out something that I find too hard, because then it's not so relaxing. But it is, yeah, they're very relaxing to do. I like the puzzle books that have the range of ones, not just the same one all the time. So, yeah, there's lots of course the television helps us. We've got the radio and various kinds of streaming and things that we can do now, where we can replay a program on one of the streaming channels. All sorts of things to help us to feel a little bit more relaxed. So we have that pleasant feeling associated with where we live, rather than an unpleasant feeling. Now, one of the dangers that you can get into is eating, of course, and I have been down that track. And it is quite possible, I have found, to put on about a stone in the old money. What's that, about 7 kilograms these days in the kilos, and I think you could probably even put a couple of stone on in a couple of months quite easily doing that. And of course, sugar is a big problem and is very addictive. And so there's not going to be much point in giving yourself a health problem because of putting on a lot of weight. And also a kind of it might not make you depressed exactly, but it might make you feel quite discouraged if you've put on a lot of weight. And sometimes when people put on weight, the feeling of discouragement makes them eat more. So that's not a good habit to get into. So I don't recommend doing that to make yourself have a pleasant feeling. If you're going to eat something, at least eat something healthy. If you're a sensitive person like me who gets a bit maudlin and gets a bit anxious, you're not going to want to wind up in hospital one day with a heart problem or a stroke or something. So keep your activities away from food and just healthy things. Same with alcohol. I know a lot of people like to come home from work and they have a nip of something when they get home because, it's so, it warms you up and just makes you feel so relaxed. I don't advise that because, again, that can be very addictive, and soon it's a little bit more than a little nip. It's maybe a bigger nip now. 1.5 nips can't do any harm, but they do it every day. And that can build up. And I've seen people really stack on weight so quickly with doing that. So I would avoid doing that. Just keep that for social occasions when you're with other people is the best idea, I think. So getting into those sorts of activities that give you some relaxed feelings, some pleasant feelings. So when you come home, you're kind of looking forward to, I'm going to get down to doing that thing again. You might have to even put a little timer on, because if you've got to go to work the next day, some of these enjoyable things can become quite addictive, as I've found, and I'll wind up going to bed quite late because I've played too much mahjong. So you might put a little timer on us. Think about the hours you've got to do things. You've got to make your sandwich for tomorrow and make the bed and whatever, and I'll allow myself this little half an hour or whatever it is of playing my games or doing my hobby. And then you sort of come home and you think, I can't wait to get a bit more of that done. Well, I hope this helps. God bless, and bye for now.